Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film, War Horse. Now, War Horse is the latest film and the second film this year, and this month, from Steven Spielberg. A horse who lives in England around World War One, and who, after being raised by this young boy, and, raised to be the farm's, steed, he is sent off to war, to World War One, to help fight for the British, so they can ride the horses in the war, and then kidnapped by the opposing side, and then this little girl has him for a little bit. A horse's experience throughout World War One. I'm not as big of a fan of his dramas as I am him as a blockbuster film director, which I think is kind of what he's most known for, and I think what he's best at. I just seen Tintin, and Tintin, the camera's always moving, it has the latest technology, it's like moving back and forth constantly. And then you watch War Horse, and War Horse is shot on film, the camera's very still. I'm pretty sure it was edited with film, not digitally. And whereas Tintin was too much, I think War Horse is too little. This isn't the kind of Spielberg I think people will remember him for. All his films are very earnest, and this film is sickeningly earnest. It's ridiculously earnest. And in his older films, those were earnest as well, I mean, even Jaws and Raiders and such, but you could tell the director himself was very earnest. He was very wide-eyed and naive. And that kind of fed into, I think, the whole film. It kind of works with the film. It kind of feeds into it. And my problem, I think one of the bigger things with older Spielberg is that earnestness has gone, and all the fun and exuberance from the 70s and the Spielberg we all love, it feels like he's saying to me, don't bring that up at the dinner table. I'm telling you a nice story now. That, to me, is a little dull. I mean, this film kind of reeks of mothballs. It feels like kind of restrained Spielberg, but not in a good way. It feels like he's kind of detached from his material now. Like, it's not the only, he's got other shit to worry about. It harkens back to John Ford, but in such an obvious, blatant way. There was a time where, to be a serious director, you couldn't do these genre pieces and blockbusters. People wouldn't take you seriously. And I feel like that time is kind of over, and Spielberg's still holding on to that. Like, it really matters to him if he has an Oscar kind of movie, but he's doing it on their terms. And I feel like now, we have things like District 9 that's nominated for an Oscar. Spielberg, I feel like, won't let go of that. He's too much of a Boy Scout. He's gotten too used to this kind of mold of this is how you do this if you're a great director. His whole sanctimonious attitude is kind of his undoing in this movie. But it doesn't feel like this is anything new to him. When the kid who taught Joey the war horse all he knew and all this stuff, when he'd be like, I raised him since he was just a little horse and now he's all big and I would love to see him again. When I see him again in the trenches and he goes into his whole story, I was like, I honestly really said, shut up. Like, I was by myself in the theater, and I'm like, shut up. I don't really want old man Spielberg telling me stories from World War One, in a restrained way, like, don't get too excited. This isn't Tintin. I saved all that for that one. This is where none of the fun happens. And you get to watch this horse. This is a very Hollywood schmaltzy Oscar movie. This film was really kind of outdated and almost antique, it just didn't feel like a current film. And none of that felt like it was in a good way. It reminded me of kind of the schmaltziness and the earnestness and the incredibly long length of Oscar movies from the 90s and 80s, when we can only have a certain type of serious movie considered to be good movies. Like, if anything is an action movie or horror, that's not serious enough, and this movie reeks of it, unfortunately. I really wish it didn't have that so much. I don't understand what he has to prove still, and to me this feels like he needs to make this so people will take him more seriously, but he's Steven Spielberg, so what purpose does this movie even have? So if you have seen War Horse and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to. Like, Spielberg's like, hey, I can do one of those 2 VHS movies any day of the week, son, and it'll be nominated for an Oscar. And then I'm watching it like, this, for real? This is the movie?